So it's held for like one time, right? It is held once. If we talk about the different sort of questions that there are, if we talk about the different sort of sections or the number of sections in those, number of questions in those sections, the different marks and total marks. So we're going to go ahead with that. On and all, there are about total 50 questions. So we are going to take this on to writing notes so that you guys can have your noting down onto the window as well. Now, if you look at here, NSO for 7th grade has about 50 questions, right? Most importantly, out of those 50 questions, there are 3 sections into your exam. We have section 1, whereas verbal or non-verbal reasoning, then there's section 2. Section 2 is going to have all of your science, let's say, all of your science chapters, all the physics, chemistry, and mathematics, and the total hours, total minutes, total time for the NSO to be completed is about 1 hour, right? 50 questions, 1 hour, it's a lot of time. So section 2 is going to be a section with the subject science. It is going to be your heat, motion and time, your electric current, winds, storms, physical and chemical changes, weather, adaptations of the animals to the climate, and there's nutrition of plants, basically all of those, right? Then there's section 3. Section 3 is higher order thinking questions. That is your thoughts. And the syllabus is going to be as per section 2, as we've already discussed it. It is going to have about 3 sections. So we have the sections, which are in total 3, right? We have number 1, which is your reasoning. And then we have section number 2 and section number 3. This is going to be based on the syllabus, and the questions that are going to be ranging from normal that is high order thinking questions. Right? On top of that, we have several other things that you should know about an exam. This sort of exam has about the questions which are not conceptual, right? So the conceptual questions, a big no-no, but the tricky questions, there are. Right? So we have the tricky questions. On top of that, these tricky questions are the ones which are going to be a little mind-boggling. Right? That means they're going to force you to think a lot about it, okay? But then again, you're going to have plenty of time for that. Now, moving ahead, these NSOs are conducted by the SOF, that is your Science Olympiad Foundation, every year. Maybe you should know about the rules as well. So as I said, conducted by SOF, that is your Science Olympiad Foundation. Right? Moving forward to the different sections that there are. So you are going to have the sections, logical reasoning, science, and achievers section. You need to understand one thing, that from grade 5 to grade 10, there are going to be these 3 sections. There are going to be a number of questions which are going to be a little different. There are going to be different sort of marks which are awarded per question in every section, and how much total marks they make, and what exactly is the total number of questions and total number of the marks, right? As we've established already, total number of questions are 50, but the total number of marks are going to be 60. Now, how exactly is the bifurcation of that? We're going to learn that right now. Right? So going ahead, we have 3 different sections. as we have established already, the reasoning section, syllabus section, and the hot section, right? So for the logical reasoning, we're going to call that logical reasoning. Logical reasoning. For this particular section, we are going to have about 10 questions. 10 number of questions would be there with 1 mark awarded to each correct question. Okay, so that leads to total number of 10 marks. And then we have the second section over here, and second section would be your science section. And this science section is going to have about 35 questions. Okay, these 35 questions again are going to be similarly of 1 mark each, giving this entire section about 35 marks, right? And which would be called a different name, which would be achievers section. Achievers section. And this has only about 5 questions. Now remember, this achievers sections would have the hot question, that is the high order thinking question. We would be doing different sort of questions which you would be encountering into these Olympiads as well. So you don't need to worry about that. For now, we just need to know how exactly the marks are. So for these 5 questions, every single question is going to have about 3 marks, right? 3 marks are going to be awarded to every single question, making it a total of 15 marks, right? And these 15 marks total will be about 60 marks over here. So that establishes the total of 50 questions and 60 marks, right? Hi, Vamika. I hope you're doing well. So we basically were discussing about the different sort of questions, and we were talking about the distribution and everything. Anyway, for the NSO exam, that is.
Sorry, ma'am, I mistakenly joined it.
It's okay, you can leave the session if you want to. It's
I'm really
completely
sorry.
fine. It's okay, Vamika, it's completely fine, okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Okay. Wow, we have Chris as well in the section who is watching. Hi, Chris. I'm the only one here. It's completely fine. It's going to be very much informational for you. Okay, now listen to this one. If we go ahead about these, questions of level 1 Olympiad exams will be 60% from the current class syllabus that you have and 40% from the previous class syllabus. Example, class 7 NSO exam will have 60% questions from class 7 syllabus and 40% of questions from the class 6 syllabus, right? So as I have told you, this is going to be 2 levels, right? 2 levels of Olympiads, which is level 1 going to have about 60 and 40 ratio. 60 from the current class syllabus, that is class 7, and 40 from the previous class syllabus, that is class 6. Okay, and then questions of level 2 Olympiad exams will be from current class syllabus only. That is if you pass the class, that is if you pass the level 1. So we have level 2, which is all the questions from current grade that you have, right? In your case, that is class 7. Now, questions in the achievers section also will be from the current class syllabus only. So You do not need to worry about anything else. Okay, what you need to worry about is basically the sort of questions that would be asked. They would be a little tricky, but at the same time, they could be a wording as well if you read them properly and if you go ahead and be a little more detailed about everything that there is, right? So the sample papers which we are going to discuss right now, those sort of sample papers are designed by the experts to make the students familiar with the syllabus covered and the pattern or the marking scheme, which can help them to make a smart decision, a smart plan, and stretch a strategy for the preparation of the exam, right? Downloadable sample papers are available on a lot of sites, and we are going to go ahead and learn from all of those expert made sample papers for the starters, right? See, all of these things that I've told you, you might find them on a lot of sites, you might find them by your own research, you might find them at a lot of places. But for now, we are going to start with this, the one that we have over here. Okay, so we'll be starting with the logical reasoning first. So let me just start with one question or two questions for that matter. Okay, so I'm going to paste the questions here and then we are going to discuss all of those together. We'll be talking about how the questions are and how questions come and how do you solve them for that matter, or what, let's say, method you deploy for the solving of those questions. Now, see, these sort of questions, they come from the section one. We are first of all discussing the section one, which is the logical reasoning. Okay. So for this one, if you look at the question, it says if plus is called x, that is your multiplication, your plus has been changed into the multiplication, and your subtraction is called division, right? That is, your subtraction has been changed to division. And your multiplication has been changed to a subtraction, right? And your division has been changed to a plus, basically your addition, right? So your division goes to plus or addition. Then you have to basically solve the equation that has been provided to you with these changes that are given or instructed by the question, right? So the equation that we have necessarily over here is 16 divided by 64 minus 8 into 4 plus 2 and equals to question mark. We have to find out this question mark. Before solving this equation that we have at hand, you need to change the signs according to the question's instructions. So 16 divided by, that means 16 plus 64, according to this one over here. Minus basically has been changed to the division. So 64 would be divided by the 8. Into has been changed to subtraction. That means minus 4, and plus basically means multiplication into 2, and then the answer will be given, right? And in this case, if you solve the equation, you will get step, but at the same time, you should know that this one is the one that you really be going after based on to the instructions given by the question, right? Based on the instructions, right? So here we go. We have 16 plus 64. 16 plus 64, that necessarily is 8, right? 80. Now this 80 would be divided by 8 minus 4 into 2. So that basically means 4 twos are 8 and 8 minus 8 So 8, basically, it is divided by 8, right? So we have 10. 10 is our answer. And then there's 10 minus 4 into 2. So 10 minus 4 into 2 is 16 for some reason. Anyway, that was a silly mistake that we all did there. Obviously, you have to solve it in a manner that your math teacher tells you to anyway. So that is how we go by the question. 16 is the answer. Next thing that we have is the next sort of question, which would be, let's say, a bit more easier. Anyway, jokes apart, I could solve the question. All I was doing was giving you guys a little something to laugh about, but you guys know what the answer is, right? Now moving ahead to the next question of the same logical reasoning that there is. So we have another question, which basically tells something about what Anuradha remembered. So Anuradha remembers that her friend had visited her after 13th, but before 18th of a month. So we have to go by 13th to 18th of a month. These are the dates, right? These are the dates from 13 to 18. While Anuradha's sister remembers that Anuradha's friend has visited after 16th, but before 20th. These are the dates which Anuradha's sister remembers, right? So we have the dates by Anuradha, and we have the dates by Anuradha's sister, right? And if it was Saturday on 16th, now we have a day, 16th was Saturday. See, the trick to solve these questions is to basically move with them while solving them or while trying to make a sense of them. That is really important. And then on which day of the week Anuradha's friend visited her. Anuradha's friend visited her. So we know a day. We have to find out the days out of which Anuradha's friend might have visited Anuradha, right? And we have to look onto the basis of the day that is for like this, for the 16th. So 16th is Saturday. Now, if we look at this, you see we have 16th as Saturday. And according to both of these, if we look at the dates, we have to narrow it down to the 16th, 17th, and 18th, right? Because Anuradha remembers from 13 to 18, and Anuradha's sister remembers from 16 to 20. So 16, 17, 18, these are the common days onto which they both remember that the friend might have visited, right? So it was, if we go back to the question, it was before 18, before 18. So that strikes 18 out. And her friend, Anuradha's sister, remembers after 16. So 16th is striked out. We're left to the 17, which is the answer. Now, which day was 17? If 16 was Saturday, then 17 was Sunday, right? That basically goes to the option C that is there, right? If we have these sort of questions for the logical reasoning, I think you guys can easily pass through. We can go ahead with a few more, but let's just go to the science questions that are there, okay? Now, science questions, we would be starting with the easy ones, okay? So as to make you guys a little more comfortable around the questions, and then we will be moving to the higher order thinking questions, which is your achievers section, right? So this is section 2 that is there. This is totally section 2. So for section 2, we have a question, which of the following stages in the life history of a silk moth produces the silk fibers? This is one of the easiest questions that can be there. How exactly? Let's just go ahead. Moth, this is a complete stage. So into the complete stage, it is not going to produce any sort of fibers. It is just going to live, reproduce, and die. So there is no way that that can be option one. Then we have the option two. Option B is basically eggs. Eggs are not even hatched yet. So they cannot do anything in the first place. So this is also an incorrect option. Then we have option C. Now option C is basically the caterpillar stage, right? Or the worm stage. Now, if you look at it, this is actually the stage where this particular physical form of the silk moth is going to produce silk fibers to make cocoon, right? And that is where we get the silk fibers. So there we have it. Our answer is option C, right? Because once it is inside the cocoon hardens and there is no use of those silk fibers in the first place. You have to get them as soon as they're produced, right? As soon as they're produced. So that is one thing, which is like pretty easy for you guys to go ahead with, right? And then we have rest of the, what do we call it? Rest of the questions as well. So I'm going to give you the example of another question. And then we are going to move ahead with the achievers section, which is the higher order thinking question, right? So we have section 2, another question. Which of the following substances are present in higher percentage in the exhaled air than the inhaled air? Now remember, we are doing a comparison between the exhaled air and the inhaled air for that matter, right? Now, how exactly is that working out? You have to see if we are exhaling and inhaling, there are two things involved in the matter of what do we call it, in the matter of the percentage of the components, right? So during the inhalation of the gases, we have maximum amount of oxygen, nitrogen, okay, and some amount of water vapors, right? And during the exhalation, we have more amount of carbon dioxide, nitrogen, of course, is there, a lot of water vapors are also there. And then we might have a little bit of the oxygen or not exactly. So if you look at the question, you are going to have more percentage of the more percentage in the exhaled air than the inhaled air. So I think the question is pretty simple and the answer is pretty simple too. If you look at the question, we have carbon dioxide, oxygen, water vapor, and nitrogen. And the options are carbon dioxide only. Another is carbon dioxide and water vapor only. Another one is oxygen and nitrogen. And another one is all four. Now, first things first, when we are inhaling the air, water vapors are present in less amount, okay? But during the inhalation, our body moistens the air for easy gaseous exchange within lungs, right? So going ahead with that, I guess that water vapors are more in amount during the exhalation as well. Not that I guess, I know it definitely. So carbon dioxide obviously is going to be more and water vapors are obviously going to be more, right? So that is why we have option B. And that is our correct option. Nitrogen is going to be in the same amount because nitrogen is not being used by our body. So it is going to remain in the same amount. Okay, whereas oxygen, this one is used by the body. Carbon dioxide produced by the body, right? And we have already talked about the water vapors as in how the body basically moistens the air which is inhaled by us so that there is easy gaseous exchange, that is an easy exchange of the gases into our lungs, right? Now that being said, option B is the correct option that we have over here. There's going to be a little more water vapor and there's going to be a lot of carbon dioxide for that matter. These sort of questions are found in the section 2. Then we have section 3, which is achievers section, right? Remember, section 3 achievers section is basically with the 5 questions, and it can be a little trickier than the rest of the questions that there are, right? Because it although has the same syllabus, it might have a lot of advancement, a lot of trickiness put into the same question as well, right? So we are going to have a question which is talking about plants for that matter, just to make sure that we solve one question from each section. Okay, and then we are going to talk about how you should be proceeding with the preparation of the NSO. Okay, now we are going to talk about the diagram of the two plants and how exactly two plants are of same species, right? Same species means both belong to the same category of the plants. Here we go. Right. Right. So, as I said, the question was, the given diagram shows two plants of the same species and refer to the diagram and answer the following questions. The two plants are there and both are of the same type, okay? And which arrow indicates the process that would not lead to the sexual reproduction, and which arrow represents a type of pollination that would result in great adaptability of a particular species to the potential environmental changes. That means we have the arrow for the asexual reproduction because it says not lead to the sexual reproduction. That means we are talking about the asexual reproduction. Okay. And if you look at the question properly, it just shows how that would result in the greater adaptability of a particular species to potential environment changes. That means this is talking about the sexual reproduction, right? Because pollination happens only in the sexual reproduction. Most of the times it happens only, yeah, pollination happens only in the sexual reproduction, right? So your key word here is the pollination. That indicates that all of this entire great sentence or the complicated sentence that you're learning is basically your sexual reproduction. Okay, that is being explained. Now, how exactly is this sentence related to the sexual reproduction? That is what I'm going to explain to you. So we have, first of all, particular species particular species getting the or achieving the greater adaptability to the potential of environment, to the potential environmental changes. That means if two species come together, not species per se, if two organisms of the same species, if two organisms of same species come together, we are going to have organism A and we are going to have organism B. Okay, these are the two organisms that we are talking about, right? So this is going to have its own DNA and this is going to have its own DNA, and both of them are adapted or well adjusted to their surroundings, right? Both of them are. Now, what will happen is their DNA is going to get mixed DNA. And this is the offspring or the baby, or in this case, a seed that we're talking about, right? So you see this mixed DNA, this is going to have features of both parents, okay? And these features are going to help. These features help in better adaptation or adaptability, or let's say adjustment for that matter, if that's the easy word, adjustment to the changing environment, or better chances of survival, right? Because whichever organism is going to change and adjust according to the environment, they are going to have more chances of survival, right? So I hope I have broken down the question enough for you people to understand. Next thing that we have over here is which arrow indicates a process that would not lead to the sexual reproduction. That is, if you look at this particular question, we have two arrows, right? And out of these two arrows, if you look at these, right, if you look at these particular two arrows properly, you see that X is just from the petal of the flower to the stigma of the flower, right? X is basically from one anther to the stigma of the flower, whereas Z, this is the X that we are talking about, whereas the Z is from one stigma to the one enter to the stigma of the same flower, that is the Z. And then we have the Y. Y basically is from the one stigma, one enter to the another stigma that is there onto this particular flower, right? Now, if you look at this properly, this option, these what do we call it, options, these arrows that are shown here, they might not be quite clear, but as far as we have perceived the situation, they go by, we have the Y, which is showing the process which could not lead to the sexual reproduction, because if you look at it, this is an answer and this is going to go ahead with this stigma, but there is like no pollination here. And the next is the sexual reproduction, which is the X, because the enter is going to 1 sigma, which shows the pollination here. So that basically goes with the C, right? And that is how the questions are into your achievers section as well, right? Now, these are the sort of questions you would be encountering with, that you would be, tackling with into the different sort of different sort of NSOs that you would be sitting for, that would be taking, right? So the big question that comes here is that how exactly do you prepare for these sort of things? See, preparation of the NSO is all about the dedication, first of all. And it is not that NSO is asking you to prepare something else, or it is asking you to labor a little more than the usual syllabus. If it is asking you to study the syllabus which is different than your own class, no. What you have coming into the NSO exam is something that you have already read, that is the level 1 40% class, previous class syllabus, and or what you're currently studying or what you've currently studied, that is the present class scenario, right? So these are the different things that there are. So all you have to do is put your brain into the studies. All you have to do is be very attentive about your studies and go by with proper alertness and carefulness. Apart from that, the key to the Olympiad practicing is key to the achieving something good into the Olympiad is the practicing. First of all, you look at the syllabus. Second of all, you choose the topics, you make the notes, and then you organize those. And after organizing those, you basically go by the task of studying them. Now, when you're studying them, after every single concept that you study, it is very important to have the practice of it. Now, how do you have the practice for it? You do as many questions as you can. You practice as many questions as you can. You practice as many MCQ questions as you can, basically. On top of that, these questions are going to help you in several folds. These questions are going to help you to know how much you have grasped, how much you have understood the concept, how much you have retained. On top of that, practicing is going to help you to understand that how much of a practical applicability of a particular concept you can achieve for solving the questions, or how much exactly you have to go ahead with practically applying the concept into the questions. So as you see, we solved the multiple questions here. Now see, going back to this question of the silk moth and the silk fibers, this is something that you started reading in 4th grade, okay? And some of you might have watched it into the YouTube videos, or some of your teachers might have shown it as well. But most importantly, it was there that the that basically the knowledge you already had was to be put into the concept, what was to be put into the question, and you had to use that knowledge in a practical manner to solve the question in a way that you needed to know which stage in the life cycle of a moth might produce or is producing the silk fibers. Going ahead with the logical reasoning questions, how do you prepare for those? You practice. See, one way or another, Olympiads are going to benefit. How does a student benefit by taking the Olympiad exams? See, participants of Olympiads are ranked, first of all, onto the basis of however many marks they have obtained. Now, after taking the first level of the test, students, they can judge themselves academically, right? At 4 different levels. You can see the school level, your city level, zonal level, or the regional level that there is, and above all, at the international levels as well. If you sit for the international Olympiads, and every student is provided a student performance report. After every NSO exam, you're provided with with a SPR, that is student performance report, And the SPR analyzes the strong and weak areas of the student. As you know, the detailed performance comparison is provided of the student with other students, as in, as compared to the other students. It's very important to know that where exactly you stand. And students are then again suitably awarded based on to whatever rank they have gotten. That is one way of benefiting from the NSO exam. Another way is you develop a critical and creative ability of thinking, which is going to be very much helpful for you in the future. Basically, how you're solving your higher grade exams or how you're sitting into a competitive exam and rest of the things, right? So that was for the seventh grade, and it was amazing talking to you people. It was amazing solving questions with you, and I'll see you in the next webinar. You guys take care, stay safe and happy.